Now I'm going to start this review by talking about the brand, actually. That's not something I do very often, but this is the first Baltic watch I have featured on my channels. It's the first Baltic watch I've had in my hands, and I got to say, so far I'm very, very impressed. Not just with the watch, but probably more so with the brand. I'm really impressed with their website. They are so open and honest about where their watches are made. Hong Kong, if you're wondering. Assembled in France, adjusted in France, accessories made in Italy. It's not very often you'll see a brand be this upfront about where their stuff is made. You just would not ever see a Swiss brand say, hey guys, just to let you know, we get all our steel work done in China. It just never happens. Lots of history on there about this brand as well, and I have to say my experience with the website has been backed up with my experience communicating with them. It was probably one of the most simple interactions I have ever had with a brand. There has been no attempt whatsoever by them to influence me in any way. They just wanted to know which watch I was interested in. And I think they were quite surprised when I went back to them and said, I actually want the cheapest watch you make because, well, I tend to review affordable watches. I like to show the best value for money watches that I can find, and yeah, I'd love to see your cheapest watch. And of course I was thrilled. They said, yeah, wonderful, absolutely not a problem, which one do you want? And I have chosen this gilt blue HMS. I think this is the best looking watch out of their most affordable range. Gorgeous colours, gorgeous style. If you're not familiar with this brand, they tend to produce vintage inspired watches, so you get that sort of vintage inspired look but with modern technology. The movement inside this watch is actually the Miyota 8315. No doubt you're all familiar with the Miyota 8215. This is based on that movement but has a longer power reserve and doesn't seem to suffer with the same sort of stuttering second hand that you'll see all too often with the 8215, although when you knock this watch, the second hand will pause, which is intentional. It is a sort of safety feature that is built into these automatic movements to protect the moving parts. It's just unfortunate that on the 8215s it was always way too sensitive, and so the second hand on the 8215s quite often just seemed to stutter and jump all on its own. But this one seems fine. So yeah, 60 hours of power with this movement, and it hacks and hand winds. Of course, some of the 8215s don't hack. Gorgeous leather strap. I can see why they have their accessories made in Italy. Beautiful leather strap, actually. Such a gorgeous smell of leather. Probably one of the best smelling leather straps I've ever held. I know that's not something we usually look for in a watch, but man, the leather just smells gorgeous. It feels really, really soft and supple. You can tell they are using a really, really good quality leather. The buckle is simple enough. It's fully brushed. It's signed. You've got the B on the crown as well. Signed case back, 50 meters of water resistance, screw down case back, pull, push, crown. Crystal. It's not sapphire, sadly. It is a piece of box domed or double domed crystal. I'm guessing that is just a sacrifice that they had to make to ensure that this watch came in cheap enough for them to be able to offer it, at the prices that they're asking for. 360 euros for this watch, which I think is about as much as I'd want to see, to be honest, for this watch. It is quite a simple watch. I mean, the brand does seem to be making quite sort of premium watches. This is the cheapest watch they make, and they offer watches upwards of sort of 1,500 euros or so. And I've no doubt all of their watches are beautifully made. 360 euros, though, I think is about as much as I'd want to see this watch for, especially given there's no sapphire crystal. But I think that really is the only weakness. The case, 316L stainless steel, there is some polishing there, look. The first bezel is polished. You've then got a sort of outer ring that's brushed. Yeah, the rest of the case seems very nicely brushed. Drilled lugs, a mix of finishing on the case back. And the dial, just look at this thing, gorgeous. Gilt hands, gilt applied indexes, 36912 on the dial. I love 36912 on a dial. I mean, I'm a sucker for it. Printed minute track around the outside. Clearly inspired by vintage watches, and no denying it's a very, very good looking watch. Very good looking watch. Great size as well, 38mm, 47mm tip to tip. Case is 10mm thick, although the crystal adds 3mm, so 13mm total height. Perfect weight as well for me. I've got a roughly average sized wrist, so yeah, I think it's got great dimensions, great build quality, looks fantastic. It hasn't got the 8215 in it, thankfully, because if it did, I think that would be a real issue. So 8315, 60 hours of power reserve. Yeah, I think the cheapest watch that Baltic offers is a really good example to start with. Anyway, obviously I'd love to see more of their watches, and yeah, so far I'm impressed with this watch, but I think I'm more impressed with the brand. Yeah, the website and how they have communicated with me, it's left me with a really warm, fuzzy feeling. And I've no doubt some of you have Baltic watches, you have perhaps interacted with the brand. Guys, I'd love to hear what you think. You've listened to me rabbit on now for quite a while. Yeah, it's your turn. Let me know in the comments section. What do you think of Baltic watches and the brand? My first impressions are 2 thumbs up. I'm impressed. Now it's time for you guys to let me know. As always, guys, a massive thank you from me to you for tuning in. I do appreciate it.